Departure Victor Bravo, follow Cessna, heading eastbound, clear for takeoff, runway 13. Quebec Zulu Bravo, radio now. Quebec Zulu Bravo, main only. Nope. Sierra Bravo, yeah, and I'm also showing you 50 knots faster than the traffic. I'm going to turn on my noise cancelling, that helps.
Hey there, my name's Craig and I am a student pilot. I'm learning to become a private pilot, so I've been going through all of the training and trials and tribulations that it takes to become a private pilot. It's a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. Very rewarding, but a lot of work. So one of the ways to make it easier on myself is when I go out on a solo trip, I will take a couple of cameras with me, turn them on, and then start my flight. And I do that so that I can debrief myself, find a way that I can get better, take a look at what I did well, what I didn't do well, and really just kind of go through all of the things that I can prepare for as part of my private pilot's tests that I'll have coming up, but also just to be a safer, more skilled pilot. So the video I have here is a solo flight that I took, a cross-country flight between Pitt Meadows and Boundary Bay in Vancouver, and then back to Pitt Meadows. And as I've found out, Pitt Meadows is the 8th or 9th busiest airport in Canada in terms of movements, so that's takeoffs and landings, and Boundary Bay is the busiest, at least in 2021, busiest airport in Canada. When you're a student pilot with all that air traffic control and the traffic, a lot of flight schools around, and the proximity between YVR, which is the international airport, there's a lot of airspace restrictions. It's really intense, and it's something you know, you'll probably see in this video. But before I keep going, one thing I will note is that I am a student pilot. I'm not an instructor. Everything I say, all the research and the things that I think I've done wrong or even done right in the video that you're about to see, don't take my word for it. It's just a comment on a video for myself. So it's not flight instruction, and please don't take it that way. Secondly, I'm also learning how to take videos and all the photography and videography components that it takes to make a good video, and I'm not there yet, and some of the video you'll see I think is a bit lower quality than it could have been, especially compared to some of the other aviation videos you may have seen. It is what it is. One thing I will note as well is I've left most of the video intact, so it's fairly long. And I did that purposely for myself so that I could actually feel some of the pressures and anxieties that come up while you're on a flight that really you can only appreciate when you sort of experience the whole flight, as opposed to a YouTube video that you might normally see, which is all the boring bits cut out and it's just, you know, scene after scene, or, you know, lots of cool photography. This is not that. This is a flight. It's raw, and it's for me. But if you find any value, then cool. Thankfully, I've made a lot of mistakes in this video. Still not too bad. A lot of color commentary. Okay, just to set the flight up a little bit, my flight plan is going to be from Pitt Meadows Airport, so CYPK. I'm going to take off. I'm going to make a left-hand turnout around 500 feet. That's right around Douglas Island. And from there, I'm going to head south towards Boundary Bay, which is Blackie Spit. It's kind of a peninsula in Boundary Bay that's easily seen from far away, so you don't really need a navlog. From there, I'm going to expect the courthouse arrival procedure. Boundary Bay, being so busy, has VFR procedures that you have to follow to kind of make sure all the traffic is going in the right direction at the right times to keep things organized, even without the air traffic control getting involved. So I'm expecting a courthouse, depending on because of the way the winds are. I'll come in a westerly direction towards the airport, do a touch and go, come back 180 degrees. I'm expecting an automall departure, which is sort of opposite to where courthouse is. You're going to have air traffic kind of going this way, but separated enough to make sure there's no collisions. And from there, I'll head a little further north over to Cloverdale. From Cloverdale, I'll be going northeast, and I'll just touch the outside edge of the Langley Airport, the Langley Regional Airport Control Zone. So I'll have to make a call to the air controller there. I'll be going north to Albion, just in Maple Ridge, north of the Fraser, where I'll make a call into Pitt Meadows to line myself up ready for a full stop landing, heading west. That's the way it was drawn up on paper. Let's see how I did. Hello, hello. You can hear me. My radio works. Fantastic. Avionics and electrics on and set. ATIS.
Limited weather at 1400 Zulu. Wind calm. Tower visibility 20. Sky clear. Altimeter 3020. IFR approach visual runway 26 left. Arrivals runway 26 left. Departures runway 26 left and 26 right. NOTAM runway 26 right is available for departures only from 1500 to 0000 Zulu. Note, due to reduced system capacity, VFR aircraft may anticipate delays, and circuit training will be unavailable at times. Inform ATC at initial contact you have information alpha. So the first mistake, and it's right off the bat, is I filed a flight plan, and you do that on the phone, usually at the hangar or the flight school, or even sitting in the seat before you start the engine. You call up the Kamloops FIC, you give them all the details of your flight plan, and a departure time, and an expected arrival time for search and rescue, anything like that. What they'll also give you at the time is a squawk code, which is what you set on your transponder so that everyone in the area knows who you are. So they give you a squawk code when you file your flight plan, and you write that down. A more prepared version of myself would have written down that squawk code on my knee pad, which is what I keep right in front of me, which where all your details and notes and your pencils set up. But what I did is I wrote it down on the flight plan sheet. Gave myself a mental high five when I did that because I got the flight plan out of the way because that's something new. And then once you start up the engine, which is when you're starting to pay money, realize that I forgot the squawk code that I wrote down in my bag. So now I'm already having to readjust my thinking, and I should have had that available and been more prepared. Next time, I'll probably make the same mistake again. I've done it like 4 times now. It'll sink in eventually. It's got to be habit forming, but right off the bat, first mistake. Note, due to reduced system capacity, VFR aircraft.
Okay, that's good. I'm going to tune in my next ATIS, which is 125.5. I don't have that. Nope, nothing yet. Okay. 21.5 in case I get it. Alright, let's get some taxi clearance here. Good morning, pit ground. This is Cessna 172, Golf Delta Mike Kilo on apron 1 with Alpha. Taxi for a south departure to Boundary Bay.
Golf Delta Mike Kilo, pit ground, runway 26 left, altimeter 3020, taxi via Alpha, squawk 3054.
054. Pit ground, I have a flight plan with squawk 5527, if that's okay.
Delta Mike Kilo, ground, roger. Taxi via Alpha, squawk 5527, contact tower, holding short.
Hold short, 26 left, Delta Mike Kilo. So the squawk code that I just mentioned, I wrote it down. It was given to me ahead of time. But the controller doesn't know that. If you tell them you've got a flight plan, they'll look up your call sign on your airplane. They'll realize you'll have a flight plan and they'll open it for you, I think. But I didn't do that on my initial call, so he gave me a squawk code that was completely different from what I already had registered, and then I had to call back and correct them. It's kind of needless. It's again, it's about preparation a little bit. You get so used as a student pilot to making the ground call, and so you kind of get the basics down, and then when you start doing flight plans, it's kind of a new wrinkle that you're not even used to yet. So it's just something that I got to get used to. Do a brake check. All good. Let's not hit a wing. Don't want to do that. A little behind schedule. All right. Instrument check is good.
Pitt Tower, Kilo Delta Bravo, taxi to Apron 1.
Kilo Delta Bravo, taxi via Charlie to Apron 1.
Kilo Delta Bravo.
Okay, 26 left. Here we go. Get that down to 1,000. You can hear the way I'm talking on the radio. I'm kind of holding my breath and exhaling. That just is a sign of stress and anxiety. I'm in a rented airplane. It's expensive. I'm charged basically by the minute. And every minute I feel behind, the more I feel like the airplane is going to be booked out in, an hour and a half. So I have to be back. My flight's got to be over. And I feel that sort of weight on me a lot of the time. So I'm getting stressed by having to think about things, doing things faster. There's really no way around that because you're in a rented airplane, and short of owning your own plane, you just have to deal with it. You can deal with it by showing up earlier, doing your pre-flight earlier, getting your documentation done a little bit earlier. And I didn't do that in this case, and this is kind of what you get. You get a little more stress if you get behind schedule. All right. Flight instrument check. Strobe light. Aircraft into the wind. Nose wheel is straight. Brakes are on. Fuel selector valve on both tanks. Mixture rich. Oil and temperature green. Area behind is clear. It's all good. Throttle 1,800. Oil and temperature are good. Suction gauge good. Magneto drop. Down a little bit, that's good. And good. Annunciator panel, still good. Let's check our mixture. Yep, all good. Full idle. Doesn't die. Gotta like that. Up to 1,000. And ground lean. Pre-takeoff, harness and doors are secure, baggage loose articles secure, flight controls free. And correct.
Pick ground, Alpha Juliet Zulu on Charlie, taxi apron 1.
Trim set, flaps
Alpha Juliet
set.
Zulu ground, taxi via Charlie to Apron 1.
Fuel selector valve, both tanks. Master switch is on, annunciator panel is correct. Magnetos are on both. Autopilot is off, throttle friction is set. Mixture rich. Flight instruments checked and set. Avionics are set, takeoff briefing. I'm going to go quickly. The normal takeoff on runway 26 left. Taxiing to the center of the runway, applying full power. We'll call engine gauges are green. Call airspeed alive when the needle moves. We'll confirm full static power, lifting off at 55 knots. I'll call rotate. Takeoff safety, if I encounter any problems affecting flight safety, I will call reject and safely taxi off the runway. I'm only stopping for engine failures or fires. With sufficient runway length, I'm going to land on the runway. With insufficient runway length, I'm going to pitch for best glide, which is 79, and I will land to the fields just to the northwest. Things I have to remember: idle cutoff, fuel pulled, ignition off, doors unlatched to master off in the event of a real emergency. Above 800 feet, I will pitch for best glide, turn to land on the airfield. If I'm not airborne by Charlie, I will consider that a problem affecting flight safety. All other emergencies, I will climb to circuit altitude, circling for a normal landing. Doing a takeoff briefing, it's like promises you're making to yourself. And I read them off every flight, and I have them organized in my mind as to what order I'm going to say them. But I'm just saying it, right? I'm not feeling it. I'm not like actually visualizing these events occurring. If they were to happen, what to do. in a situation on takeoff where you don't have a lot of time to think, you've kind of got that muscle memory.
Oil and temperature are good. Temperature's coming up. Landing lights on. Strobe light on. Altimeter transponder is on. Pitot heat, don't need that. Heading indicator is set because it's slaved. Mixture is rich. Takeoff time. Let's record as 10:11. And we're good. Alright, well, let's go to the line. Okay, switch. Pitt Tower, Delta Mike Kilo is ready for takeoff on 26 left for departure for Boundary Bay, and if I could amend my flight plan if that's possible to 10:10.
Delta Mike Kilo, your flight plan departure will update its departure, update its time on departure. Delta Mike Kilo, left turn out, clear for takeoff, runway 26 left.
Clear for takeoff, Delta Mike Kilo.
So in my communications with the air traffic control here, I was worried that I was getting behind. What I was asking for was to have my flight plan amended to make sure that my departure time, which I wrote down to be like 20 minutes previous, was going to be updated with my departure time when I'm taking off, because I only gave an hour estimated time en route, which means after an hour, that's where alarm bells might go off that I'm not back in time. So I was concerned to make sure that my flight plan was going to reflect that I hadn't taken off yet. What the ground controller gave me back, I didn't really understand. And I think he says something of like, don't worry, we update the time when you leave. I have to look that up. It makes sense. But what I said was, yeah, affirmative, right? I didn't really understand what he was telling me, and I just went along with it. That's an experience, but you got to stop doing that. You have to be very clear. You have to understand and ask for clarification. Again, experience.
Delta Mike Kilo, left turn out, clear for takeoff, runway 26 left.
Clear for takeoff, Delta Mike Kilo. Okay. All right, well, all that prep work always seems so harebrained, and here we are. Left turnout at 500. All right, so my feet are to the floor, and there we go. Static power is good, gauges are good, airspeed is alive, and 55 knots, we are rotating.
So when you're under full power at low speed, your airplane really has a tendency to yaw to the left. You have to use right rudder to make sure your airplane continues to be pointed down the runway in a straight line. Otherwise, it'll kind of veer off to the left. But when you pull up and you rotate, what happens is the tires don't really grip the road anymore, or grip the runway anymore. My tendency right now is to use the ailerons to bank myself into make sure I'm going down at a runway heading. And it's incorrect. On a gusty day, you don't know what's going to happen. You might roll more than you're anticipating. You'd hate to smack your wing on the runway. That would be a disaster. My note to myself here is I got to use more right rudder.
Everything's good. Just keep my hand on the controls there.
One other small thing that I didn't like on takeoff your plane is at full power, the engine is at full power, it's going to vibrate. You definitely don't want to lose engine power on a takeoff because your throttle has vibrated out. So what you have to do is you got to keep your hand engaged and put it on the throttle, give it some pressure to make sure that it stays there. And I momentarily forgot about that.
Ooh, I'm going to turn on my noise canceling, that helps.
I was behind in the airplane and I didn't recognize the fact that I didn't have my noise canceling functionality of my earphones turned on. And if you've never been on a small plane before, it's so dramatic of a change. Like you literally hear nothing that you would wonder why you would never ever not put it on. Well, I just forgot. And it wasn't until you're up in the air and you're like, you have to start listening to the radio a little bit because now you're competing with the full power of the engine noise and you realize I can't really hear as well as if, oh, I got to turn my headset on. You're fumbling, you're kind of banking, you're turning, you've got full power, and now you're looking for your headset adapter to turn on the noise canceling. It's just workload you don't need to be dealing with when you're trying to concentrate. So put it on checklist maybe. Maybe I'll have like a pre-flight checklist, maybe an insert on my knee board that's over and above what is on the checklist that I'm getting on the plane to remind myself, turn on your headset and also turn on your for-flight draft log tracking if that's something that you've got.
Okay, so I'm going to go to 1,800 feet. Check left. Clear left for a left turnout. Let's record. Staying at 80 knots or so, 79 is the VY in this aircraft. Pretty clear day. Alright, we're going to go down to 1800. I can see Blackie Spit right in front of me, which is about where I'm going. Let's lean out. Now we can relax a little bit. Get so.
Section departure runway 13 from Alpha Taxiway, runway length remaining is 4,900 feet. Advise ground on initial contact if you are able to accept the intersection departure. Inform ATC on initial contact you have information, Charlie.
Alpha Tower, altitude is right in Alpha.
Boundary Bay Port Station, Charlie, limited weather 1550 Zulu, wind 030 tower visibility 15. Sky clear, altimeter 3020. IFR approach, RNAV runway 31 circle, runway 07, or the visual approach, runway 07. IFR arrivals, inform Vancouver terminal of requested approach on initial contact. Landing runway 07, departing runway 07 and runway 13. Intersection departure runway 13 from Alpha Taxiway, runway length remaining is 4,900 feet. Advise ground on initial contact if you are able to accept the intersection departure. Inform ATC on initial contact you have information, Charlie. Boundary Bay Port Station, Charlie, limited weather at 1550 Zulu, wind 0303, tower visibility 15. Sky clear, altimeter 3020. IFR approach, RNAV runway 31 circle, runway 07, or the visual approach, runway 07. IFR arrivals, inform Vancouver terminal of requested approach on initial contact. Landing runway 07, departing runway 07 and runway 13. Intersection departure runway 13 from Alpha Taxiway, runway length remaining is 4,900 feet.
Okay.
So if you're a veteran pilot, what you just witnessed probably drives you bananas, and that's going through the ATIS a number of times. There's radio calls happening in between, so it's kind of colliding, and I'm not really working the radio very well. I could turn down COM 1, so I'm not getting the traffic. But I'm having to go through ATIS a couple of times, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm trying to find out what's the runway. Because at this stage of my training, I have to think about it. I got to look at the heading indicator to know what runway is in relation to where I am. So I'm having to do some math in my head, and I have to hear it over and over again. And one of the reasons why I'm having to do that a lot here is because I didn't check it on the way out, and that's definitely something you should do. If I had checked it on the way out, you'll recognize very shortly if you've already heard it before when you're in the airplane. So, you know, something, 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 information, echo. And then you turn on ATIS and you hear something, 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 information, echo. You instantly know what your approach is going to be and what the runway is going to be because you already heard it and you're just reconfirming it. It might have changed to Foxtrot, in which case you're going to have to listen up. But if it doesn't, you've instantly got that little bit of time back and stress back that you don't have to worry about because you've already heard it before. I didn't do that, and it's just adding to my anxiety now. The distance between Pitt Meadows and Boundary Bay is not that long. It's like 7 nautical miles. And when you're traveling at 110 knots an hour, the distance closes pretty quickly. So you don't have a whole lot of time until you're on your next waypoint, at which case you've got to be making tower calls, and you need the information to do that. Small things to prep before you even get in the airplane, but it would have definitely taken away from my stress level.
Okay, so my next one is... I'm going too fast. 127. Yuck, that wasn't really that great.
So while I was trying to figure out which runway I was going to be landing on and listening to the ATIS and getting my navigation and making sure that my next communication frequency was set up, I dropped, I think, 400 feet in altitude. 2 reasons for doing that. One is I'm thinking about it and I'm sort of, keeping my hand engaged on the yoke. Shouldn't do that. Second, it just means I wasn't trimmed, because if I was trimmed correctly, which is what I should have done, then the airplane flies itself and you don't even really have to touch the yoke unless it's bumpy or turbulence, but it wasn't. Trim, then figure out what you're going to do next, and then you won't make those 400-foot mistakes.
Echo Mike Golf at Foxtrot, line up and wait, runway 25. I've got departing traffic off runway 13.
Echo Mike Golf, line up and wait for takeoff for 25.
Echo Mike Lima, tower short delay is approved from Alpha, clear for takeoff, runway 13.
Echo Mike Golf.
Good morning, Boundary Bay Tower, Cessna 172, Golf Delta Mike Kilo is over courthouse, inbound for a touch and go.
Cessna 172, Golf Delta Mike Kilo, Boundary Bay Tower, runway 07, altimeter 3020, clear left downwind, squawk it in after the touch and go, automobile departure.
Squawk it in after departure, cleared forward downwind for 07, Delta Mike Kilo.
Foxtrot Bravo number 1, runway 07, extend downwind, I will call your base turn.
Foxtrot Echo Bravo, you call my base.
So my radio call here was okay. It wasn't great, but I didn't tell him the altitude I was at, and I didn't tell him which version of the ATIS I was listening to. Now, he has me on radar, but there's a lot happening, and I'd like to think that when you're talking to air traffic control, if you do it correctly and it lets them do their job a little bit faster, I should have recognized a little more quickly that it was a really congested frequency. There was a lot happening. The tone of voice air traffic control had was being very quick, very deliberate. To help in that regard, I also have to be quick and deliberate and give all the information that he needs quickly so that he can get on to the next person, because there's a lot happening.
Echo Mike Lima, clear for takeoff, runway 13.
Echo Mike Lima.
Delta Mike Kilo Tower identified not below 1,500 feet for northbound traffic.
Not below 1,000 feet, Delta Mike Kilo?
Mike Kilo, not below 1,500.
Copy, not below 1,500, Delta Mike Kilo.
Echo Mike Golf, early right turn to the Fraser Bridge as soon as safe label, not above 1,000 feet. Wind 0203 knots from Foxtrot, clear for takeoff for 925.
Early turn and not above 1,000 feet. Echo Mike Golf, thank you.
118.1.
Foxtrot, Bravo, turn base.
Sending base, what's up? Full stop.
Romeo Tango Juliet, surveillance service, terminate, good day.
Good day, Romeo Tango Juliet. Uniform Yankee, can you get direct over there?
Uniform Yankee, cleared direct to Cloverdale. I may have more traffic for you, stay on my frequency.
You will come.
Bay Tower, Air Foxtrot, Alpha Juliet, Zulu 1,500 over Cloverdale, landing with Charlie.
Foxtrot, Alpha Juliet, Zulu, Boundary Bay Tower, turn direct to the courthouse now, runway 07, altimeter 3020, cleared left downwind via the courthouse, lock it in.
Hi, that's left downwind 07 via the courthouse, Alpha Juliet, Zulu.
Delta Mike Kilo traffic passing through 12 o'clock left to right, 2.5 mile northbound, Murphy Rebel, 1,000 feet, and spacing will be fine. You can start your descent at your discretion.
Delta Mike Kilo, I'll look for traffic.
I have no idea what a Murray Rebel looks like. I looked it up, and I think it's like a home-built airplane, locally home-built, so it's not like something that'd be, well-known around a bunch of different airports. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, how much do you really need to know? If someone says there's a Murphy Rebel in front of you, are you just supposed to know what that is? That it's not a, some type of passenger airplane, or if it's like a 60 knot per hour, tiny little ultralight. I have no idea. And I'm wondering if I should know that. Cessna, yeah. Piper, yeah. 747, yeah, I know what those are, but not this other stuff. So more of a question than anything.
Delta Mike Kilo, I'll look for traffic.
Delta Mike Kilo, roger, and change to 118.1.
Change to 118.1, Delta Mike Kilo.
Alpha Juliet, Zulu identified, change monitor inner tower 118.1.
18.1, Alpha Juliet.
Echo Mike Golf, the traffic off your right-hand side has you in sight, not a factor. Your discretion to 1,200 feet for the bridge surveillance service, terminate, good day.
Good day, Echo Mike Golf.
Foxtrot, Echo Bravo, clear for touch go, runway 07.
Echo Bravo.
Delta Mike Kilo, keep the speed up. You're number 2, following Cessna short half-mile final, well ahead.
Delta Mike Kilo, number 2, looking for traffic.
Every time I'm told I'm number 2 or number 3, they'll state the person in front of me and whereabouts they are, and I'll instinctively say looking for the traffic. But I think I'm 40% able to find the traffic. It's really difficult. A low-flying airplane over a built-up area blends in with the landscape. You can't see it. Despite how hard I try, I'm not good at that yet. It is a skill itself, something I need to get better at.
Holding short.
Alright, keep my speed up.
Quebec Zulu Bravo, wind 0304 knots from Alpha, clear for takeoff, runway 13.
Go back Zulu Bravo.
Next on Alpha.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, ready on Alpha.
Oscar Sierra Bravo at Alpha, line up runway 13, number 2 for departure, on the 152 ahead.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, lining up on 13.
Delta Mike Kilo, number 1, runway 07.
Delta Mike Kilo. Alright, mixture rich. Flaps 5. Get slowed down a little bit.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, follow the Cessna, head eastbound, clear for takeoff, runway 13.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, clear for takeoff 13.
Okay, okay.
Delta Mike Kilo, turn base.
Delta Mike Kilo. Alright, let's get these flaps up.
I've made this mistake a couple of times. I've let it go, but I gotta say something. It's flaps down, not flaps up. I'm putting the flaps down as I'm coming in for a landing configuration. I'm not putting them up. That would make no sense. I often don't make sense either. It's just the way it is.
There's a lot of action coming at once.
Delta Mike Kilo, clear to land, runway 07.
Clear to land, Delta Mike Kilo.
Tower Foxtrot Echo Bravo, downwind 07, request for full stop and student going first solo.
Foxtrot Echo Bravo Tower, check that. Number 2, runway 07, follow the Cessna left base, and ground will have further instructions for you.
Okay, flaps 40.
Foxtrot Echo Bravo, thanks.
Bay Tower, altitude Zulu, left downwind 07.
Altitude Zulu, number 3, runway 07, follow Cessna 12 o'clock, 2.5 miles. You can keep the speed up.
Looking altitude Zulu.
Alright, let's get our speed out.
Echo Mike Lima, surveillance service terminated today.
Echo Mike Lima, good day. Oscar Sierra Bravo, 3.
Oscar Sierra Bravo identified.
Oscar Sierra Bravo. Zulu Bravo, 12900 feet.
Quebec Zulu Bravo identified.
Quebec Zulu Bravo.
Golf Oscar Sierra Bravo Tower, sorry, I saw the wrong ident there. Just confirm your transponders on for me.
Yeah, Sierra Bravo.
Nope. Go around.
400 feet, is it showing there?
Okay, so there were all sorts of things wrong with this landing, and I'm going to go over a couple of them. The first one, which is the major one, is I was doing things completely opposite to what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to pitch for airspeed to keep your airspeed where you want it, and you're supposed to use your throttle or your power to control for altitude. If you're flying straight and level and you pull the throttle back, your angle of attack can still be what you think is straight and level, but your airplane will actually lose altitude because there's not as much lift being generated. And that's fine. That's actually how you want to descend. So in this case here, what I was doing was pitching down for my altitude and then pulling the throttle back to keep my speed within the range of what I think it should have been. And you just can't do that. And the reason is, well, for one, when you get to the runway and you've got to now pull up or you're going to hit the runway, that's not good. And your flare has to be really dramatic. That's not good. So in this case, what I did is I came in with a negative angle of attack, aiming at the runway, and the visual looks about right, but I hit the runway and I skipped because I just didn't pull back fast enough. It's still the wrong technique anyway. And the second I heard those wheels, it wasn't what I wanted to hear. I knew it was the wrong time. So I felt like I had a bit of a bounce. In that scenario, you've got basically two choices. Try to correct and hope you've got enough energy left in the plane to hit the runway again and not drop like a rock. And the second is just to jam your power in. If you jam the power, you pull up, it's basically a go around. If you bounce at a speed where you're just over the stall speed of the airplane, you're going to go up and then you're not going to have enough lift to keep you going, and then you're just going to drop. All sorts of bad things can happen. The general accepted principle when you bounce an airplane should be you go around. You jam the throttle in, pull away, come back around, do it again. If you're a little bit too fast and you bounce, you've still got enough energy, you can put enough throttle in to kind of land on the runway, and it's going to work out. But there's always a chance that it doesn't. If it's not a good approach and you need to go around, you do it. And when you do it, it's a sign of strength that you've recognized the dangers, whether they're your own fault or not, and you're going to go around, do it again, do it safely.
Yeah, this is Sierra Bravo.
Delta Mike Kilo, check you in the overshoot. Turn cross on your discretion.
Delta Mike Kilo.
Delta Mike Kilo, sorry, you were a touch and go automobile departure. Fly the automobile departure. Actually, runway heading initially.
Automobile departure. Delta Mike Kilo.
ATC told me to do a go around. If they were watching me land, they probably saw it, and it would probably look like a go around even though my wheels touched. So they instinctively said, do your go around to hit the crosswind. And the crosswind is just the first turn you make after taking off. I'm not doing circuits. I'm heading straight out. But he said, hit your crosswind at your discretion, which means just climb up and turn whenever you need to. And I just said yes. Again, this is the second time I've done this on this flight alone. I just said, yes, that's affirmative. Situational awareness also means knowing when your ATC is telling you to do something that you didn't think was coming.
Foxtrot Echo Bravo.
Alpha Juliet Zulu Tower, traffic exiting Charlie, cleared to land runway 07.
Clear to land 07, Alpha.
Delta Mike Kilo, fly runway heading. Let me know when you see a Cessna at your 1 o'clock and 1 mile south of shoreline, 1,900 feet in sight.
Delta Mike Kilo, I'll look for traffic. Delta Mike Kilo has the traffic.
Delta Mike Kilo Tower, roger. Okay, heading your discretion to the auto mall. Keep that traffic in sight.
Delta Mike Kilo.
Air traffic control asked me to fly runway heading. Even though I'm on an automall departure, which is the waypoints to my 2 o'clock, I really shouldn't be making my way there until I've actually gotten to about, 500 feet or so at runway heading.
Delta Mike Kilo, change to 118.1.
Delta Mike Kilo.
Change to 127. Sierra Bravo traffic, 7 o'clock, 1 mile. Just over Delta Air Park is the Cessna 172 at 1,200 feet. They're a bit faster than you. They have you in sight.
Roger, Sierra Bravo.
India Foxtrot, Mike from Alpha, clear for takeoff, runway 13. Foxtrot, Victor Bravo at Alpha, line up runway 13, number 2 for departure, on the 172 departing ahead.
Clear Victor Bravo, number 2 lining up.
Quebec, Zulu Bravo, do you have the Cessna off your left-hand side now in sight?
Zulu Bravo, affirmative.
Alpha Juliet Zulu, left onto Charlie, contact ground 134.3 off. Mike Charlie, Mike Tower, the traffic ahead is going to position runway 13. You can stay inside them, line up runway 07.
Charlie Lake.
Bravo Juliet, Quebec, the traffic ahead is going to position runway 07, pass behind them at Alpha, line up runway 13. Your number 3 for departure, number 2 for runway 13.
Bravo Juliet, Quebec, line up behind the 172, runway 13, 3rd for departure.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, do you have the Cessna at your 8 o'clock and a quarter mile in sight, 1,600 feet?
Oscar Sierra Bravo with traffic.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, roger, surveillance service terminated today.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, thanks, talk to you later.
Foxtrot Victor Bravo, follow Cessna head eastbound, clear for takeoff, runway 13. Foxtrot Victor Bravo, clear for takeoff, runway 13.
Foxtrot Victor Bravo, thanks.
Delta Mike Kilo, you still have your traffic off your right-hand side in sight?
Affirmative, Delta Mike Kilo.
Delta Mike Kilo, surveillance service terminated today.
Good day, Dr. Mike Kilo.
Quebec Zulu Bravo, surveillance service terminated today.
Quebec Zulu Bravo today.
Mike Charlie Mike.
Tower 8 Home Golf Papa requesting higher.
Last call, Tower 2nd.
Tower 8 Home Golf Papa requesting 2,000.
Here from Golf Papa Tower, change on frequency.
Here from Golf Papa.
Don't like being that close.
So this is part of the stress you feel as a pilot, and especially a new one where not everything's automatic. But imagine you've got traffic right here and fairly close enough that you can, see the people who are flying the plane. You got traffic over here. You've got the ground below you, of course. You're trying to get to a certain altitude because that's what your flight plan says. And in order to do that, you have to maintain enough workload capacity that you can look on your kneeboard to get the frequency so that you can get to the radio and tune into the next station to make the call, because it's only a few nautical miles away and you run out of time. It's just something that hits you as a student when you're flying an airplane, that it's not the same thing as a car. You can't just pull over to the side of the road, look at your map, take your cell phone call and figure it out. Like, you're in the air, nothing's changing. and you got things all around you. You just have to react, and you've got to be prepared. So the more experience you have, the more you can do that automatically.
Bravo Langley Tower, altimeter 3019er. Prefer that call over the Cloverdale racetrack.
Oscar Sierra Bravo.
Langley Tower, Cessna 172, Golf Delta Mike Kilo is at 2000, just coming up to Cloverdale. I'd like to transition through on my way to Fort Langley.
So Golf Delta Mike Kilo, Langley Tower, you're at 2100, confirm?
Confirm 2100.
Delta Mike Kilo Tower, that's above the zone, altimeter 3019er, traffic just south of your position, northbound type and known, 2300 unverified.
Thank you, Delta Mike Kilo.
So this is something I need to research a little bit more. The Langley control zone is 1900 feet above ground. So I'm flying at 2100 feet above sea level, and the control zone is 1900 feet above ground level. So it's really a question of how high is the ground. And my understanding is that the Langley Airport was actually a couple hundred feet off the ground, because when I look at my ForeFlight profile, I can see it going up. And even if I was flying at 2100, it would actually hit the very top of the zone. So I called in instinctively to Langley just to make sure that they knew what my intentions were. And he told me I'm out of the zone. And I was just wondering how correct that is, or if we're just splitting hairs.
Booking's only till 11, it's 10:33, right?
Langley Tower, Cessna 152, Golf number at 2300, just approaching 264, requesting transit towards Santa Bay.
So the Golf November, Langley Tower, altimeter 3019.
Golf number.
Okay, 2100-ish. Buddy around.
Staff 24, Granny, planning to stay on golf.
There.
Staff 24 and Airport 3, that's affirmative.
Staff 24 and Airport 3, ground, thanks. Hold short to runway 19 and 25.
Let's get our ADA set up.
Staff 24, thanks.
Back to 121.5. Stay at 2100 because the airport is just over there, just on the edge of the control zone, so I want to make sure that I'm out. I did announce myself, so.
So I'm a big, slow-moving guy, and sometimes the stress on my face isn't overly obvious. I'm also very subtle and sarcastic. But that last 20 minutes was really stressful for me because of all of the unmastery of the skill that I'm practicing. I'm not hard on myself because that's actually part of the fun, is taking on something new. But there's no real way around that. When you're in a situation and all you have to depend on is yourself, it's stressful when you don't have all the answers. And if you were with an instructor, like doing a duel, you wouldn't have this anxiety because there's always someone there you can answer these questions. But you would never really learn anything unless those questions were really burning a hole in your soul like they were here. So there's no way around that. This is what experience is. It's the learning, answering the questions that came up that you had no one else to ask at the time. So this is one of the reasons I started flying in the first place, is because it was hard, because I wanted to feel the excitement of having something that was really important that you had to know. It's a little bit different from learning how to kayak and making sure you're paddling the right way. It's not potentially a life or death situation. At least I sure hope not. So this is one of the reasons why I started flying, was to have that excitement and the pressure and all this anxiety that I'm saying I'm not liking. Well, this is the point. It's to do something that's really challenging. So for anyone who's taking on something, perhaps it's aviation or something else, and you get that feeling of just uncomfort because it's just not working out or it's stressful, that's okay. That's what growth feels like. Learn to enjoy that. Learn to seek that out, because when you're done, you're so much better off. You're a better person. You're faster, stronger, more intelligent. Doesn't matter what it is. Don't give up. Just find a way to enjoy it. If you make it normal, such great things can happen.
Landing tower, X-ray Zulu Yankee, ready for takeoff.
X-ray Zulu Yankee Tower, line up and wait, runway 01.
X-ray Zulu Yankee.
Oscar Sierra Bravo Tower, change on frequency.
Oscar Sierra Bravo, thanks.
Due to reduced
Delta
system
Mike Kilo Tower,
capacity,
change on frequency.
Delta Mike Kilo.
Yeah, Echo, you're about 5 minutes delay. Contact, you have information Alpha. Pitt Meadows Airport, ATIS information Alpha. Limited weather at 1400 Zulu. Wind calm. Tower visibility.
All right. Still Alpha. Weather hasn't changed that much.
So tuning into the ATIS this time on my way back into Pitt Meadows gives you an example of what I was talking about earlier when I was flying into Boundary Bay, not having heard the ATIS yet. So in this case, I had heard the ATIS before. It was still on Alpha, but I recognized the message. It was the same speaker. So I've instantly been liberated from the workload of trying to figure out, is there a different runway? Am I going to have to make an approach any differently? Is Tower going to give me instructions that I wasn't anticipating, and then I'd have to figure out a different way to come in? I didn't have to do any of that because I heard the ATIS. It was exactly the same.
And I'm going to come down now a little bit. 2000. Get ready to come back. Very short flight. I only touched the ground for about a quarter of a second at Boundary Bay. Still counts. Didn't smell any rubber, but not a very good landing. I did not flare. I just took it too low. But that's why we do it. That was a go around, and you know what? I was listening to a podcast on the way in. 20-day, 31-day Safer Pilot Challenge, an M0A, and his topic of the day was go around and don't be afraid to do it. And when you listen to that, you're thinking, yeah. Never had to do it yet. Well, just did. And
Victor Golf, Pitt Tower, squawk on it, altimeter 3020, clear through the zone southbound and not below 2,000 feet in the zone and identified.
Not below 2,000 feet, 6 Golf.
so now I'm going to give
Victor Golf, change of plan, fly the Pitt River route southbound.
6 Golf.
Pitt Meadows Tower, this is Foxtrot Hotel Papa Golf with you.
Foxtrot Hotel Papa Golf, Pitt Tower.
Foxtrot Hotel Papa Golf just off of Langley Airport, climbing into 2300, still squawking 2474, like to transit the zone northbound towards Meridian, please.
Hotel Papa Golf, squawk ident, altimeter 3020, clear into the zone and not below 2001 in the zone.
Foxtrot Hotel Papa Golf, squawking 2474 and will be 2400 across the zone.
Hotel Papa Golf, identified. Golf Foxtrot Victor Bravo, Pitt Tower. Golf Foxtrot Victor Bravo, Pitt Tower. Hotel Papa Golf Tower, traffic, 10 o'clock, 2 miles northeastbound Cessna at 2,500 feet, type altitude unverified.
Hotel Papa Golf is looking for the traffic. I have the traffic, so we're going to descend to 2,200 just off of our 10 o'clock.
Roger.
Alright, Foxtrot Charlie Tango's ready to go on Alpha.
Foxtrot Charlie Tango, left hand circuit, clear.
I'm just going to orbit here until I can get a chance on the radio. Pitt Tower, Golf Delta Mike Kilo, Cessna 172, at just over Albion at 2,000, inbound for a full stop with Alpha.
Golf Delta Mike Kilo, Pitt Tower, squawk in, runway 26 left, altimeter 3020, clear straight in.
Cleared straight in, Delta Mike Kilo.
Delta Mike Kilo, identified.
Delta Mike Kilo.
So at this point, the radio is really busy. There's a number of people trying to get in, a number of people trying to get out of the Pitt Meadows airport. And I'm right over Albion, and I've kind of run out of time. I don't really want to go too far into the mountains, but I also don't want to turn towards the airport because I'm getting pretty close, and you can't go into a Class C unless you've been cleared in. So I start to orbit around a little bit, which I think was the right move in this case. I'm mentally high-fiving myself because I think I've made a big boy decision. I've made the decision you're supposed to make. Don't go into the zone. Yay! But what I didn't do was actually listen to the radio when he was telling me what my altimeter setting should be. Now, the weather hasn't changed, but you can certainly have air pressure that's changed. But why that's important is because I've already got a calibrated altimeter from when I left, and that's going to tell me how high in the air that I am. But if the barometer is different, then the reading on my altimeter is going to be wrong. And I was thinking about this. When you're a student pilot, you are basically confined to a very small area. You're at your home airport doing a lot of circuits where nothing really changes. You get used to setting your altimeter the first time, and in my case, it's sea level, so you don't even listen to the number at all. You just roll it back until you hit 0. I have to get used to listening to that barometer setting. They're telling you that for a reason, so that I can go and adjust my altimeter to make sure that it's what the current conditions say it is. It's just another practice to add into your good habits. Every time you hear an altimeter setting, take a glance at what you've got in front of you and make sure it's the same thing.
Alright, I gotta make this landing stick, because it's a little more important to get on the ground for the last time.
Small point. Every flight ends up on the ground eventually. It's just whether or not you're walking away from it. That's really the only thing that's different.
Alright, let's do our descent. Mixture is rich. Mags are good. Mags on both. And let's do a low down descent. We're in 26 left.
Pitt Tower, Charlie Golf, Alpha Golf, Victor. We are at Swanee set at 2,000 feet. We'd like to come for a full stop. We have information, Alpha.
Charlie Foxtrot X-ray, tower traffic, 10 o'clock, 2 miles, opposite direction Cessna at 1,700 feet.
I have him in sight, Golf Victor.
What's the traffic, Charlie Foxtrot X-ray?
Charlie Foxtrot X-ray, roger, and additional traffic at 1 o'clock, 2 miles, northbound Cherokee at 1,700 feet. Service terminated, change order frequency.
Good traffic, Charlie Foxtrot X-ray, traffic.
Delta Mike Kilo, tower traffic, 1 o'clock, 1 mile, opposite direction Cessna, 2,300 feet. They have you on site.
Delta Mike Kilo.
Victor Golf Tower, service terminated, change order frequency.
Makes sense.
Golf Alpha Golf Victor, Pitt Tower, runway 26 left, altimeter 3020, cleared right base and squawk ident.
Squawk ident, right base, Golf Victor.
Okay.
Tower 150.
I am coming in a bit
2,000 feet
fast.
area with Alpha inbound circuit.
Golf Hotel November X-ray Pitt Towers, squawk on end, runway 26 left.
Alright, so I want to be at least around 1,000 now. Let's get our flaps.
Clear right base, 26 left, Hotel on November.
Okay. Gotta do a better job in this one. Now we're a little high. Pitch up a little bit.
Tower Foxtrot Charlie Tango is down with touch and go.
That's good. 20 flaps.
And Pitt Tower, Kilo November Hotel, ready for the westbound flight.
Kilo November Hotel, not above 500 feet, one in the zone, depart via Pitt and Fraser River. Take off on the water at your discretion.
Not above 500. And the Kilo November Hotel.
Tower Foxtrot Charlie Tango down with touch and go.
Foxtrot Charlie Tango, extend downwind, I'll call your base.
Hotel Foxtrot Charlie Tango.
Delta Mike Kilo, clear to land, runway 26 left.
Clear to land, Delta Mike Kilo.
Bravo India Echo,
full flaps.
Tower, taxi to Alpha and hold short 26 left.
Taxi Alpha, hold short 26 left, Bravo India.
Hotel Papa Golf, service terminated, change on frequency.
Hotel Papa Golf, thank you.
Hotel November X-ray, number 2 for runway 26, correction, number 3 for runway 26 left, plan to join about 3 mile final.
Hotel November X-ray, looking in, we'll plan out 3 miles.
Foxtrot Charlie Tango, turn base.
Foxtrot Charlie Tango.
Alpha Golf Victor, traffic, 1 o'clock, 2 miles, same direction, Cessna, 1,500 feet.
Got him inside, Golf Victor.
Alpha Golf Victor, follow the traffic.
Follow traffic, Golf Victor.
Bravo India Echo, line up, runway 26 left.
Lining up, Bravo India Echo.
Oh, that wasn't bad. I am going to go to Charlie, though.
Delta Mike Kilo, exit Charlie, contact ground 123.8.
Delta, get Mike Kilo.
Hotel November X-ray, number 2 for runway 26 left, follow Cessna, turning 1.5 mile final.
Hotel November X-ray with the Charlie.
Okay, that was an okay landing. Let's just get off, because it can't clear.
Bravo India Echo, clear for takeoff, runway 26 left.
Clear takeoff, 26 left, Bravo India Echo.
Oh. Alright, up to 1,000. Forward ring runway, we're good there, we're good there.
Foxtrot Charlie Tango, left hand circuit, clear for takeoff, runway 26 left. Clear, touch and go, runway 26 left.
1, 2, 3.
Foxtrot Charlie Tango, clear, touch and go, runway 26 left.
Foxtrot Charlie Tango.
Okay, 1046. And after landing, flaps retract, stand by. The pitot heat off, strobe off, nav on. Mixture, ground lean, landing alarm. Pick ground, Delta Mike Kilo on Charlie, taxi for apron 1.
Delta Mike Kilo, taxi by Charlie to apron 1.
Delta Mike Kilo. Okay, so some things I did, I think, well, because they're ingrained. You know, the radio calls were okay, I think. A lot of stuff happening around Boundary Bay. I'm going to be honest, I put too much effort into planning for this. so I got anxious and trying to get everything ready, and then you get the fear, the anxiety that you're running out of time and you have to push things a little faster than you want. If I was a private pilot with my own plane, I don't think I'd have that anxiety, but this is still a bit new. But that being said, on one hand, that was a pretty poor landing. In fact, I don't think I've ever bounced like that before in Boundary Bay. But on the other hand, they immediately did a go-around, which I think is actually a better lesson than just having another, standard landing. It's all about safety, right? So if I was trying to land a Boundary Bay, that would have been annoying, and I had to go around and do all that kind of stuff again. But the fact is, I wasn't, and it's never a bad idea to just pop in that throttle and climb away. So, every flight you do, you should learn something or appreciate something more than what you used to. I think that's true in this one. I was prepared, but then over-prepared to the point where I just had too much going on, and I'm not gonna lie, having some of this camera gear doesn't help because you're setting that stuff up, cuts into the time that you need because of your booking. Pick ground, Delta Mike Kilo on apron 1. Can I close my flight plan?
Delta Mike Kilo, ground, affirmative. You just call the FIC for that?
Okay, Delta Mike Kilo.
Delta Mike Kilo, ground, if you'd asked on initial contact, I would have been able to close it automatically, but it's no longer in our system.
Delta Mike Kilo, affirmative.
I didn't know that if you have already talked to ATC and you're on the ground and you have an open flight plan, if you don't tell them that, then they can't do anything about closing it. Closing a flight plan is a phone call away. It takes 5 seconds at tops. It's really not that hard. But in the future, when you're calling ground, you're sitting there, you've done all your post-landing checks and you're ready to call in, ask for the flight plan to be closed then, and then it just saves you an extra step.
All right, let's close this down. Good. Put down throttle 1000. Ground lean ELT monitored. Avionics off. We'll turn that off. Switch live make check. Good.
If you're doing maintenance on the airplane and your magnetos are broken and they're actually energized and on when you don't think they are, and you spin the propeller, it could start. People can get killed. So you do a live mag check to make sure that the magnetos actually turn off. Now, little tip, when you do that, really push the key in, because one of the things that I found is you turn it to the off position and the key comes out just a little bit. And when the key comes out just a little bit, you go to turn it back to make sure the engine doesn't die, and it's stuck because it's a key. So you've actually really got to push it in and then do a quick little back and forth. Otherwise, you're turning the engine off prematurely, and I don't even know what I would do in that situation. Another question to look up.
Good. Extra cutoff. Mag's out. I'm no longer paying. That's right.
So that was my flight between Pitt Meadows and Boundary Bay. It was a short 40-minute flight. It probably generated, I don't know, 10, 15 hours worth of video editing and rendering and post-analysis, but that's what I did it for. I think I learned a lot just by going through and looking at all the things that I could do differently. It's really made an impression on my mind. And one of the benefits of doing a video is that you have to spend the time to make the video, which means you're really spending the time on the content because you're doing the analysis. And I think it's just another way to get stuff drilled into your head, which is, that's fantastic. Anyways, my next flight will be better. I'll be more prepared. I'll take the learnings that I took from this and apply them in the future. And if I come up with another video with another flight, hopefully I won't have as much to say. Anyways, thanks for watching.